The Bridge on the River Kwai is my review for today's video. This is the 1957 Oscar winner for Best Picture of the Year. This is a David Lean World War II epic, the story of a Japanese prisoner of war camp and the struggle to maintain dignity in somewhat undignified times. First thing you kind of notice about this movie, and it does establish kind of the environment first and foremost, but then when the British soldiers, led by their colonel, Nicholson, played by Alec Guinness, a great actor, man, a genuine class, Oscar winner for Best Actor for this movie. They enter in the camp, and of course, they're whistling the infamous Colonel Bogey March. What strikes you is that it doesn't seem like they're being forced in at first. It seems like they're just kind of welcoming themselves basically, and that's kind of what sets the tone for this movie and the struggle between Colonel Nicholson, who's in there of course against his will and against his army's will, his platoon's will, if you will, and Colonel Sato, who is in charge of the camp, and their struggle of wills against each other, and basically Nicholson kind of clutching on to the Geneva Convention and wanting to follow the rules. And basically the primary rule that he's adhering to is that officers are not to endure manual labor. Meanwhile, Sato is trying to build his bridge. He has a deadline, May the 12th. He repeats, I have to finish it by May the 12th for the train to come in. If I don't, I'll kill myself, basically. So the pressure's on. So for the first, basically, like the half of the movie, it is kind of their battle of wills against each other, and how Sato tries to force him and tries to charm him, but he will not flinch until finally they kind of reach a mutual understanding for the operation of building the bridge. And meanwhile, there is a side plot with the William Holden character, who basically, he's an American soldier, who pretty much, this is spoilers, so pretty much it's revealed later that he's not a commanding officer of any kind, but when his Navy ship went down and they're about to be captured, put in the camp, he impersonates an officer because he feels it would give him an easier ride. Such is not the case, but he escapes, and the whole point is basically him having to come back, to help the British Army in basically destroying the operation. Meanwhile, of course, Nicholson, Alec Guinness's character, does finally kind of reach the agreement with Sato, and they decide to build the bridge. But what's really interesting about it, because there's so much time committed to their struggle against each other and their kind of butting heads, basically, you kind of think at first, it's like, okay, so he's got to be planning something. I mean, he's not going to go ahead with this and, gleefully help build this bridge, which is going to help the enemy, basically. But then what's interesting about this character and interesting about the film, and kind of the way the war kind of dehumanizes you, or kind of basically plays with your mind, basically, is that he does sincerely want to build the bridge, and he does sincerely want to build the best damn bridge, because basically it's his legacy. I mean, as a British officer, he wants people to know, future generations to come, hundreds of years from the point forward. He says this war will be over, and this will be proof that the British Army can build a quality bridge, and it becomes his obsession, and it becomes his madness, and it's quite something to see this character develop, and how you almost forget, and that he himself almost forgets that they are in the midst of the war. They are prisoners, but it seems more like because they bring this focus to the bridge, it feels like that's the only thing that's going on in their world. So it's kind of like something to hold on to within these maddening times, and it is quite something to see the character kind of go mad over it, and it's a brilliant performance by Alec Guinness. Again, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor for it, and very well deserved. A great performance from him, and it's, you kind of get little hints of why he is so passionate about it, because he's been in the war as long, not in the war, but in the army as long as he can remember, and kind of reaches a point where, I'm getting closer to the end than I was, than the beginning. Don't have many years left. Don't know, what my life is going to mean. So this is something that he latches on to. Meanwhile, of course, Sato has a different drive for getting the bridge complete. But both of them, seeing their struggle against each other, and then their agreement and cooperating basically in building the bridge. It's quite something. Then, of course, when William Holden is leading the excavation or the operation to destroy the bridge, to free the prisoners, it all comes crashing down, and it's quite an incredible closing number for the movie. One thing I love about this, of course, it's like a huge scope film. This is like, this is Technicolor, so it's very vibrant in its colors, very much stands out. And the action scenes, and well, not like the action, but like, well, yeah, like the action basically. So, and the incredible sound in this movie. I mean, really, one of the best examples of sound mixing, sound editing. I believe it won for both, if both categories existed at the time. But you just, like this movie, you could like, close your eyes and they could play you like a sample of the sound in the final scene of this movie. And you know exactly what it is. That's how unique it is, and how it really stands out and really serves the movie. So, I mean, it's definitely something that doesn't feel like, generic kapow, kapow. And like you hear the train noise, and it's just so great. And of course, as it reaches its end with, the second in command officer going, "This is madness," basically, and everything coming to its, I guess you would say tragic, but just kind of an appropriate end, I guess. I mean, you can't really envision any other end for this character, for the Nicholson character. Because in a way he's kind of sold his soul. In a way he's succumbed to the madness of war, and he's let it consume him, basically. So it's definitely an intriguing movie from a psychological point of view. Like in the midst of this war, this operation is brought to a focus. So I mean, it's definitely something that you don't see in too many war movies. Like a lot of them, they're focused on battles, and this one is focusing on building instead of destroying, which I think is kind of why this character is so obsessed with getting this this bridge built, basically. So I think it's kind of the drive of the character, wanting to build instead of destroy at any cost. So, you build a bridge, you maintain your dignity, I guess, is the symbolism you can find in it. But I think it's tremendously well acted. Again, Alec Guinness, probably his best performance. He's, of course, one of the best actors to ever exist. Also, William Holden, very good in his supporting role. And the actor who played Saito, I forget his name. I'm sorry. Let's see. Sessue Hawakawa. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He's brilliant. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, if I recall. He didn't win, but is very well deserving of a nomination. And a great character, and just a great display of madness in the times of war. So it's definitely a unique film about this period in history, about World War II. So you don't see too many movies with this kind of drive to their characters and this kind of complexity to the characters, where not everything is quite black and white, and not everything is quite dignified or undignified. So it's a good balancing act that I think David Lean is able to convey with his characters, and this would probably be noted as his best film if it weren't for the fact that, of course, Lawrence of Arabia came about 5 years later or so. But either way, this is a classic. I mean, this is definitely, movies to watch essentials. I mean, you got to watch this movie. It's incredible. I just saw it for the first time last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember, but definitely blown away. So definitely, it's worth seeing, and one of the better movies on the subject of World War II. So definitely deserving of its Oscar, and I think it's a fantastic movie. So thanks for watching.